Before it released Obi-Wan Kenobi, a limited series in 2022, Lucasfilm published Kenobi, a novel, in 2013. I haven't enjoyed Star Wars novels since Disney purchased Lucasfilm. The quality has declined due to the authors employed and the mandate for inconsequential self-containment. The Disney-era novels are all filler, no killer. Compare the work of Matthew Stover, Alan Dean Foster, and Kevin J. Anderson to the work of Claudia Gray, E.K. Johnston, and Charles Soule. James Luceno and Timothy Zahn remain, but Lucasfilm dismissed Zahn's sequels as legends, then paid the author to Disneyfy Grand Admiral Thrawn. But I digress. You're here for Kenobi. Will the book affect the show? In this video, I'll address that question as I review the novel. Welcome to Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. You've found a channel with interesting content and low production values. I encourage you to explore previous videos about all things Star Wars. Warning, spoilers ahead for Kenobi, the novel by John Jackson Miller. First, the book's development. It was written before Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm with an expanded universe timeline in front, so now it belongs to Legends. Yet it was published after the big sale. Technically, it will always be a Disney product. The first edition didn't have the gold Legends banner on its cover in 2013, but all subsequent editions featured it. For those unfamiliar with the expanded universe, or EU for short, it includes Star Wars content, novels, comics, video games, etc., produced without George Lucas's direct involvement from 1977 to 2014. In the old hierarchy, EU projects were classified as C for continuity canon or S for secondary canon. What changed in 2014? Disney announced the EU's exclusion from canon and introduced the gold Legends banner to distinguish non-canon works. Thus, the narrative, like its titular character, was a vestige of a bygone age.
The genesis of this project is that 2006, I began talking with my editor at Dark Horse, who was then Jeremy Barlow. Jeremy and I discussed the possibility of doing some original graphic novels, and I came back with a number of ideas, Boba Fett, various other things. One of the thoughts that I had was, that we could do a, Western from the point of view of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We were both fans of the movie Shane, the classic Alan Ladd film from the 50s, with the Western gunfighter who he's trying to retire and escape from his past by moving to the wilds of Wyoming. And of course, as things happen, he winds up getting stuck in the middle of the Johnson County War, helping out the local settlers. This was going to be a much larger story than that, but definitely the notion of doing, that kind of a Western appealed to me. And we ended up not doing it as a graphic novel because it really was a sprawling story. And I think I decided that the best place to do this was in prose, and it took several years for that opportunity to come around, 5 years, in fact, before, I suggested it again once I was doing prose work.
The story that began as a comic series for Dark Horse in 2006 matured into a novel with additional effort from the author in 2012, only to be expelled from canon 1 year later. Next, the plot. A middle-aged widow named Annalene operated a frontier store, cafe, and livery called the Oasis. Her late husband's business partner and would-be suitor, Oren, was a moisture farmer and entrepreneur. He built a large, seemingly successful business to tend his evaporators and protect settlements from the neighboring Tusken Raiders, led by one-eyed Chief Ayark, who intended to destroy all trespassers. Oren's invention was a community-funded network of warning sirens and Minutemen to stop the Raiders. After bringing Luke to the Lars family, Obi-Wan Kenobi chose to inhabit a hovel near the Oasis. Between attempts to commune with Qui-Gon, he traveled to Annalene's store for supplies and quickly became embroiled in the settlers' conflict with the Tuskens. Ayark secretly witnessed Obi-Wan's powers and equated him with Sharad Het, a former Jedi-turned-Tusken chief. Het's story was told in 1998's Dark Horse Comics 7-12. Despite his desire to lay low, Obi-Wan's pseudonym Ben couldn't avoid trouble. The Sand People wanted him to join them, Annalene wanted him to fall in love with her, and Oren wanted him to disappear. The Jedi Master uncovered Oren's scheme of staging Tusken raids, frightening settlers to join the network, and stealing the dues because he defaulted on loans from Jabba the Hutt. Oren hatched a plan to implicate Ben, kill Ayark, pay Jabba, marry Annalene, and sustain his network. Phase 1 worked well. His loyal Minutemen trapped Ben and the Sand People in a rock formation. But Jabba's goons arrived. The settlers fought the gangsters while Oren located Ben and Ayark for a private showdown. Ben, of course, anticipated Oren's actions. In the climax, Ayark silenced Oren, Jabba's crew fled, and the Jedi's identity remained secret. In the resolution, Annalene cleared Ben's name, and Ben helped Annalene leave Tatooine forever. I omitted all but the basic details and most of the twists and turns in case you plan to read Kenobi. Will the novel influence the show? Well, Lucasfilm assimilated much of the book in its previous shows. Misunderstood Tusken Raiders burying the hatchet with earnest, hard-working settlers, for example. However, the ideas weren't unique to Kenobi, a novel full of Western tropes. The frontier town, the frontier store, the businessman with a secret to keep, the beautiful widow dreaming of a life elsewhere, the retired gunfighter seeking isolation in the wilderness, the noble chief shepherding a battered tribe, the staged attacks to incite an angry posse, the showdown on a dead-end street. In essence, these tropes have already impacted Star Wars, some might argue from the beginning. I expect them in the show along with underlying concepts specific to Obi-Wan's character. Concealment of his true identity, communication or attempts at communication with Qui-Gon, application of his powers in subtle ways to avoid detection, minimal use of his lightsaber, discovery or awareness of Anakin's slaughter in Episode 2, lingering dark side energy perhaps. What are the obvious differences? In the novel, Obi-Wan stayed on Tatooine. The Empire wasn't involved. Darth Vader wasn't involved. Owen, Beru, and Luke never appeared. Annalene, Auric, and Ayark were the main characters. Obi-Wan had a supporting role. The plot revolved around the Oasis. If the show followed the novel, would I be satisfied? Do I recommend the novel? Difficult questions. The de-emphasis of Obi-Wan in a book titled Kenobi surprised and disappointed me. I wanted his perspectives on the Clone Wars, Order 66, Anakin's death, and the twins. John Jackson Miller developed his original characters, the townspeople, to the level of interest and concern. I liked their parts, but I've said it before, the Sand People are villains. I don't respond to them as victims. A few twists were clumsy for their plot convenience. Too many characters survived very dangerous affairs. Am I describing every Star Wars narrative? I suspect a certain group inside Lucasfilm adjusted the story. Miller thanked 2 members of that group in his acknowledgments, and I'm considering the time frame combined with the novel's rapid demotion to legend status. Just a theory. I prefer the novel to the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, and I'll leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed the video. After you read Kenobi, leave a comment with your thoughts, and please subscribe to Galactic Initiative.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, all rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.